Alright guys, it's Mental Health Week, or coming to the end of it I believe, but I thought I'd talk about a few things that sort of, it's not, what's it, gripe my goat, is it? I think that's the phrase. It's stuff that sort of gets under the skin. Um, so the title of this one, Are We Being Gaslit? Mental Health, Masculinity and Cultural Control. Because it's a weird one because they box things in a way to try and not allow you to challenge it. It's just the way I see it in healthcare. I see it in education. It's all the same mindset with the same types of people where they will make it a bigger narrative. So, for example, if you're saying the reception area needs painting, it hasn't been done for 10 years, so we're going to have to do it. When is it convenient? Simple question, isn't it? Response. So you're saying I can't treat people, I can't have people coming in, I'm going to have to close the clinic. Those are the sort of responses you get because these people live in their own little bubble, and as long as nothing affects them, they couldn't care less. They're quite happy upsetting other people to suit themselves. But anyway, so Mental Health Week is here, but are we really talking about what matters? Because I don't think we are. This isn't an attack on therapy or mental health. It's a deeper question. Are we being manipulated under the guise of support? This goes back to the question I was just talking about, where they take one narrative and spin it as if you're the bad person when you're actually just asking for access. You haven't even said when. You're just asking. It could be a case of the summer breaks. There's hardly anybody in. Because it is summer breaks. They'll book the holiday at the same time. There's many reasons, right? But they're just dismissive because it suits them. Let's talk about masculinity, identity control, and what it really means to be well. So we'll start off with the mental health narrative, support or control. I was listening recently to people trying to tell people that they need to engage on mental health. They're going, you need to, it's for you. It's for you. Not to me personally, as if I've got some sort of issue, but they're trying to get everyone else to get involved in it. So they're trying, it's for you, it's you people. We've got mental health first aid training. Yeah, I'm qualified as a counsellor, but I don't advertise the fact because, quite simply, I think your course is 5 days. I think mine was supposed to be 2 years and I did it in a few months. But let's not mince our words. You're not actually doing it from my perspective, because my counselling course is more structured around helping people. Yours seems more corporate. Yours seems more about, I have no idea the logic beyond corporations overreaching. But anyway, so mental health is important, but why does it feel institutionalized and performative? Because it is. You've got high churn of staff. You've got a focus on companies branding that they're promoting well-being, we're promoting whatever it is, at the same time often doing the complete opposite, because you're either culturally doing it where you don't have to advertise the fact because you're culturally doing it, or you're advertising the fact to make you feel better about sometimes A, you're self-promoting, or B, you're treating people badly, and it's like, well, there's a suicide helpline. I've done my bit. Not that I've driven them to suicide, but the link between the two is like, well, I've given them a phone number. To hell with them after that. The other side of this is the rise of you need therapy culture. Is it healing or soft form of compliance? The reality is, people keep telling you got a problem with your mental health. People keep saying, have you checked your mental health? People keep saying there's a problem. Do you know one of the problems people have more than anything? You've got a version called procrastination. Another one is overthinking, stressing, and whatever. So the focus is, you need to talk more. You need to think about all this stuff and make yourself a little bit more unstable or whatever. It's not helping, right? Because if it was helping, it would be like the way I structured it, which is about realizing things are temporary. The problems today will be gone in a year. Whatever it is today, in a year's time, things around you have changed. Some things will change in 24 hours. Being frustrated about a parking ticket that's costing £90 and you haven't really got the money spare this month and all this, you're getting all anxiety and stressed about it because, it wasn't your fault because you had to drop somebody off and the ticket machine wasn't working or whatever. By tomorrow, you passed that. So why are we focusing, trying to create issues? Because these are not constructive. They're not trying to create a positive feedback loop. They're creating a loop where it's like they're trying to make a problem that doesn't exist for the majority of people. They're not pushing forward real solutions. It's like therapy. Like I said, I've done the counselling course. Part of the counselling course, the important bit is I'm not allowed to manipulate or lead you. So the idea being is the whole concept of therapy is I am there to try and get it out of you where you find your own solutions. So when people say about, oh, therapy is fantastic, you go, right, how long have you been going? 20 years. Well, it's obviously not working because it just carries on. Most of the problem around those types of things is you need a soundboard. You need somebody to whinge with. That's about it. What we've got is a fragmented society. We're looking at an environment where everybody's splintering off into not even little groups anymore. I mean, I'm in a HMO. Every room here has a separate person that tries not to get too involved with the person next door type thing. So you're all trying to keep away from each other. Not because you're being negative, it's just quite simply everybody has their own business, their own life, their own interests. So from that sense, if I was needing this mental health well-being stuff, I've been here 4 years or something now. This is like a jail cell when you take it into that context, because I don't see or hear people 90% of the time. But I'm still sane. I'm still proactive. I'm still doing stuff. So no, I don't need therapy. And my personal view is, if you need it, okay. My view is, I'll never need it. Because I don't think it is. I mean, it's not healing, is it? What it is you've been able to outlay your problems in a context that can be fed back to yourself in a way that you can understand it. But I would say you could probably find better solutions in the library. The other side of this is moving from resilience to fragility, because bearing in mind, I'm not going to touch on, or I'll touch on it. A lot of this is run by women, right? The reason I bring this up is I've got another section on this in a minute, but the resilience is a masculine thing, a male thing, the breadwinner thing, the ability to deliver for the family, take on the burdens of the debt, take on the burdens of life, because your focus is the umbrella for the family unit. That has been splintered and fractured. That has been fractured through the rise of feminism, the birth control pill that allowed women to frequent with multiple men, the demise of the marriage and the structure of the family unit, and that in most cases the women end up with the kids, which also means the males lack role models from a masculine male side since the 60s. That's when all this stuff started. So the resilience side of tough luck, buttercup, push everything down and move on. You spent your entire life with your mother. Your mother that will often be probably loud, vocal, and have very limited masculine traits. And I wonder why we're getting this impact now. The lack of ownership, the lack of responsibility, the shouty a lot, the entitlement. My view is it's all linked. So my view is the resilience is the bit that you need to focus on. This is why I promote being stoic. I promote being a man, being yourself, being somebody that has strength, being somebody that relies on yourself, being somebody that looks after your health, your well-being, but in a structured way. It's not, let's talk about it, let's have a cup of tea. It's more, fix your problems. If you can't fix them, look at them, identify them, and move on. And I know a lot of people out there go, but I can't move on. You have to. The only person you're affecting is yourself. Because probably whatever it is, everyone else already moved on already. Are we told to internalize everything, even when the system is failing us? This is the bigger picture. So when we start looking at DEI, women being promoted simply because they're women, the self-loathing, girl bars and all this sort of stuff for jobs that people just normally do and don't need a gold star, you're not supposed to bring any of this stuff up. This is the other side of it, is you're being told to just shut up all the time and accept it. Except you will not get a promotion in this company because we have a strong DEI policy, and they don't want to be the engineers, they want to be the bosses. So you're not going to get promoted. You're going to be stuck there for the next 20 years. And you have to be happy about it. We'll give you a Wellbeing Wednesday. Maybe pizza on Friday. I know I sound patronising, but a lot of this stuff really is. Moving on to the next section. Why is mental health so feminised? Psychology is now majority female. Has been for a long time. It's about nearly 90%. Does that affect how mental health is framed? Of course. Because they go to conventions, they reinforce the narrative. And what narrative is that? Women. Because they're mainly women. So, and then you look at the man perspective that they won't like. And there's two reasons for this. The first one is they're grifting. These people are making a living off the back of this new environment they created out of thin air. So you've got women that have gone and done a master's degree or whatever and now selling all their well-being stuff. They're reinforcing it with other women so that they're all part of the same club. And then at the same time, they do not want other stuff in there that can be influenced. Because bear in mind, their education is based on the same types of people that are trying to say this is the narrative. This is the only bit we're interested in. But if you look at masculine traits like stoicism, logic, competitiveness, they see them as toxic. Why? Well, each one of these creates direction. Being stoic gives you a grounded approach to everything. The understanding of what's going on around you, the temporary situation, the ability to see it from a more, logical explanation. Because the problem with logic, when you're seeing people being promoted because of the DEI, or they're female, or the fact that even when you look at a piece of paper from a college on its recruitment policies for its courses, well, I say recruitment because they're government funded, virtually none of them are men. You probably have to be gay and have one leg or something, because they are the toxic people, the people creating this environment, because stoics, logic, and being competitive are normal things. Being competitive in a business environment, did you hear that? Business environment is part of it. What's your biggest problem in business? Your competitors. So we all sit around, clap hands, and say how we love each other. This is mental. Is emotional intelligence just being repackaged as conformity? Yes, I will actually. Emotional intelligence, yes. See, emotional intelligence. See, I read it from two different perspectives because emotional intelligence, by nature, women are more emotional than men, but they are trying to shape it around the certain concepts. But I look at it from a bigger, broader picture because having emotional intelligence allows you to manipulate people because it's reading the person. So you think, Matt, you're manipulating people. Yeah, of course I am. I work in business now. That's what I do for a living. And it's not because I'm proactively trying to coerce somebody into doing something they don't do. It's normally trying to get them to do what their job is. Because a lot of these people, when you highlight that they are not doing their job properly, they'll go run at HR saying you're bullying them. It's weird. It really is. So I do get it. It is around conformity. And if I'm manipulating it to get people to do what they should be doing, it is also being repackaged for people to manipulate you to be controlled by others. I've just proven I do it. And I don't know if I've got any books over there. I can't see them. I think my books are in Spain because I was going to show you some of the books I've got on emotional intelligence, the same as critical thinking and other things. It is being done on purpose. So when you hear this stuff, what I find weird is how they act as if they're doing you a favour. When my view is, in the corporate world, mind your own business. You know, what's going on in my life is none of your business. And I'm quite aggressive on it in the sense of I will literally say, just mind your own business. Oh, how's the family? Well, what family have I got? Well, I don't know. So why are you asking? It sounds wrong, but it's because they're not asking you on a genuine basis. It's like you'll see email threads that look the same where they're going, I hope you're having a wonderful day, blah blah blah. It's because they've done training courses on that. Do you know what that is? Empty, soulless. There's no empathy in there. There's no real interest in there. It's bad. Next one, the girl boss, DEI, and imposter culture. Isn't it weird that well-being has also appeared with all these three things at the same time? Or they're an aftershock. DEI started with good intent, but has become a weapon of social engineering. I would argue it probably didn't start with good intent. I'd be surprised if this wasn't intentional, because a lot of these ideas are normally dumb white people who think they know better than a lot of these societies people are coming from. The same societies, like when I'm in the Philippines, for example, that I can't run for government, I can't get a government job. They've got protected businesses and industries. I'm not allowed to even own a company in the Philippines. There is a lot of stuff that says, nah, they're for Filipinos. And it's the same in the Middle East, and it's the same for many countries. So it couldn't start with good intent, because all these governments know exactly why they don't make these jobs available, because you get what we've got in the UK now. So it is social engineering, because one of the things you get is as people move up through the ranks, they bring in their own. This is why, even though there is a lot more women in business now, they still talk about men's clubs as if it's 1976. Those boys' clubs are gone. Most of the businesses have a lot of women in the top jobs. They give them on a silver platter. When I was at Amy, the I think she was a chief exec. She was a lesbian. When I was at Kia, my group director, a lesbian. And there's many companies like that. It's not a case of they're just going and saying we want a woman. A lot of them have a tick box exercise by the seam of it. They'll, oh yeah, they tick that one, and that one. Great. And I'm not knocking the women. I'm just finding it strange that there is a pattern of the recruitment. And why do I need to know that they're lesbians? Why do I need to know? I'm working in business. I want to know if they can do the job. The rest of it's irrelevant to me. Imposter syndrome vs male exclusion. Are men just not welcome anymore? Many places, yeah. I see the nastiness in some of the office environments. I see the backhanded, the back chatter. And a lot of these imposter syndrome things are where women realize, women and DEI, so it's a bit broader, realize they're in the wrong jobs. They know they're not qualified. They know there's better people. And that's where a lot of this stuff's coming from. Are people hired, promoted on narrative, not merit? Yes. Seen it. Experienced it. I mean, don't get me wrong, facilities management, if you can pucker up and kissing off backsides, that's often the way up. But women are getting pushed above men, and I've even sat in meetings where somebody sat there going to another woman in the same meeting going, we're the breadwinners in our family. So is everybody else on the meeting. just because you're the two women in the room, you want special treatment for doing your job? I don't know. Does modern feminism push equality or institutional favoritism? And they will strongly go against that. Yet everything you see is telling you the opposite. You know, they are pushing it in things like you've got the equality and diversity policy, which is now the DEI stuff. You've got the fact that the training courses are heavily skewed to give women and diversity over men. The reality is it's done on purpose, and at the same time they'll offer you a Wellbeing Wednesday for spitting in your face and just expecting you to say, no, I didn't do that. I'm not being negative about this in the sense of I'm personally affected by this. I mean, I do get personally affected by the fact that these people are doing this type of stuff, but I see through it. I just don't engage around it. I just switch off to it. Next section, gaslighting and the new reality. Gaslighting, being told the system is transparent while reality is manipulated. 100%. When people are saying from HR departments that everything that you say to them will be confidential as a, what do they call it? Wellbeing first aider or whatever. Well, I know a lot of stuff about people I shouldn't know because the HR is not as tight-lipped as they should be. It is manipulated. They just try and make out that you're the problem. I've got somebody I deal with on a daily basis just lies blatantly to my face, and even tries to compensate with some of his lies with some excuses or whatever that don't make any sense. I just let it wash over. I just ignore what he says because the guy's a clown. But the point being is, you can either get frustrated, angry, because this is what the gaslighting is. People are lying to your face, and in a corporate world, very difficult to deal with because a lot of people still work on the structure that it's all tier. So, if, for example, your boss is the one creating the problem, and unless it's actually something that's actionable, like for example, he punched you in the face, the other tiers ain't going to take an interest. They will just feed it back down to that person to carry on as normal, and see you as the problem. That's corporations for you. It's the same structure as you would get in the military, for example. Loss of traditional roles, values, and dignity, especially for working class men. Well, the reality is the traditional roles are still there. As I mentioned, there's a shortage of engineers, there's a shortage of plumbers, electricians, carpenters. All the skilled jobs are there. If anything, the opportunity is there to exploit those because people are retiring. Even painting, the average age of a painter is 55. They're all coming to the end, they're retiring. So the roles themselves is like, we need to not change because the system is changing around us in some weird, sick way, but it will bounce back. Well, why would it? The same reason there's a shortage of all those skilled jobs I just mentioned, because everybody wants to be the girl boss, everyone wants to be the manager, everybody wants to be the leader, and yet they lack the traits and abilities, which eventually will lead to either the collapse of the economy or opportunities for having a business that does function like a traditional company. And it is important for you to maintain your values, your dignity, your integrity, your ethics, your morals, your standards, regardless of what these people are doing. Because manners maketh the man, that just comes from me from Kingsman. You can rise above this stuff. This is all temporary. Because one of the problems you got with DEI is when the guild boss realizes a lot of these people start employing their own. That's racist. No, guys. I've worked in the Middle East. I've worked in other countries. What happens is they start employing people from their own places because a lot of them get kickbacks. The corruption is rampant with a lot of these societies. There is a lot of stuff that is just not factored in because the people that are encouraging this are often white, bizarrely, with their PC brigade mentality, which is delusional because they haven't experienced the rough sides of the outputs. Other countries already have. Next one. Are we gaslit into thinking we're the problem while the world shifts under our feet? They're trying. They're trying their best. You far right male. I'm going to say male because it's not just the white people. The reality is, if you're westernized in our Western society and our Western culture and our Western mindsets and our Western framing, you've got the same issues. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female, because I can see a lot of the females are starting to realise that this is becoming problematic. We should recognise, as I said, we don't need to change. Let things move around. There will be opportunities opening up. It'll start with the elections, and then it'll start with the reality which we've got now. The accounts don't balance. Now they're after ISA money allegedly. So I cash my ISA out, pay my mortgage off. We shape and shift to the environment, but we do not need to give up our soul, our integrity, our person. They take your job, your pride, your voice, and then sell you therapy. 100% on that one. It's like the work I'm doing now is stuff I was doing 12 years ago. And I can see this going to court at some point. I'm going to leave it there because it could end up in court. They can't take your pride. I mean, to be fair, I've been treated really bad where I work at the minute. But your pride is part of you. If you've got the strength within you, they cannot steal that from you. That pride is maybe in the nation, maybe in yourself, maybe in what you've achieved, maybe it's in your standing, your abilities, your achievements. That's you. They can't take that unless you give it to them. Do not give them it. And then they sell you therapy. Well, my view is, unless you want to go down that route, to hell with them. I'm not giving up my soul. So where do we go from here? This isn't about blame, it's about naming what's happening. Exactly. We can see it, it's in our face, but they're still trying to pretend it's not happening. And in a corporate environment, I get lied to my face, even on stuff that's pretty major. But I just sit there and look, they're either stupid or incompetent or both. It doesn't matter, it's a job. I've moved from career in the business to developing my skills, developing where I'm going next. Even if I have to go back to being independent. To be fair, I was independent for a long time. I only took these jobs on because of the mortgage. But we need to frame it. And this is what the importance of this video is I wanted to sort of share, it's not you. This has been done to you. And when you can see it's what's happening, you can choose to block it out, understand the framing, look at the context, what's the point of this, what's the reasoning, and a lot of it is about reprogramming and changing who you are, but you don't have to give it up on a silver platter. In fact, you don't have to change. We need balanced mental strength, not just emotion by action. See? Not just emotion. Emotions women. Men are not supposed to be emotional in that way. Our traits are more anger. And we're not talking about anger management, are we? We're not talking about male traits. We're talking about female traits. Pity me and all that crap. We don't do that. We're better than that. And I know we have hard times in our lives, but I'm telling you, stop it. Stop dwelling on it. Stop things you can't change. Do not let it hold your life. Move past it. It's the action. That's the important bit. You can always shape and shift. As I'm saying, the environment going around us is making things worse, but it cannot sustain it. What happens when you overload a business with management? Big umbrella, all the management there, and 90% of them are useless. The 10% go to other firms. You're left with 100% of garbage. This is where restructures happen and changes to the business happen, and they cannot be constant. The contract I was on prior to this one was a problematic contract when I went in, and it was in a good state when I left it, but at the same time, the politics of putting a spoiled little child in as an account manager, who then didn't last very long, but lost a lot of staff, including his entire facilities management team. That's what happens. Change lanes. If you're in that sort of environment, change lanes. Move into something else. Move to another company. That umbrella that sits at the top, they're sitting eating a cake, but at the bottom is your engineers, your cleaners, the doers, the people that make it happen. When they won't work there, you can have 100% managers. Problem is, it doesn't pay the bills. The doers pay the bills. And these things will become shorter and smaller and reshaped. The tech industry already did it. When they started going down the DEI route, then they realised it was a waste of money. And then you've seen 10,000 layoffs from Google and whatever. That was no accident. It wasn't getting rid of Gary the fat programmer. Gary the fat programmer makes us a lot of money. The one that goes on TikTok going, oh, I've just had a smoothie, one of the free ones from one of our many restaurants in blah, blah, blah. And then this afternoon I'll have a meeting with the team. They don't produce nothing. They're dead weight. They actually think that's a job. So the point being is, this is temporary. Reclaim your soul, your purpose, your fitness, your community, your clarity. This is my message to you as an individual. Get your own purpose. Do not let people create the purpose for you. Get your fitness. Like me, going to the gym again today. I'm in the gym 7 days a week. And to be fair, you're not really seeing much growth there at the minute. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's no fat there, but it's not like you're seeing a TikToker where they're super thin and whatever. For me, I'm not gonna head down that route. Mine is about health, and don't confuse confuse the two things. Being ripped and whatever takes a lot of work, and to be fair, I haven't got the interest, and my wife doesn't like. She doesn't have problems with me being muscular as it is. Never mind if I start to go full on. But fitness is important. The community is important. The erosion of the community around you at the moment, by forcing all these illegals all around the country, for example, will have an impact. But I actually think it's going to have a strange one, because I think what you're actually doing is bringing people that live in those villages, those small towns, whatever, together. And one of the things in history that's always come about that is the worst thing you can do as a real leader is become a common enemy, because that unites everybody else. And that's one of the things they're doing at the minute. But the reason I bring up the community is not in that context. It's a context is that if you're in those environments, you're probably going to have more opportunities to meet people within your own community. I'd also advise you to spend a bit more time in your community and talk to the people around you. One of the things I do recommend is saying things. This is a really weird word. Hello. I do it in the park. You probably know it. I did see a video yesterday. I had people waving at me from the crossing because I let them cross at the crossing because he's been run over by people from elsewhere. But the point being is, we need to be less insular ourselves to make other people aware that this is being done to them. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you're British, you're British. And I know people will say, well, I listen to loads here, and they go, the difference between English, Scottish, and Irish, Welsh, etc., is different to being British because it's to do with the heritage, etc. And I have to agree with them. But being British is your heritage. Being from where you originally come from is tied to your nationality. So being, I don't know, British Pakistani, British Indian, British, I get it. It doesn't mean you have to tag it on everything because you're just British to me. You don't need to separate yourself into a different community. You're British, that's it. That division is not helpful to anybody because it gives somebody a space to argue. You're British. I've probably spent more time abroad than you probably have. Yeah, I'm still British. You don't hear me brand myself as white British or Scottish British or Irish British. I'm British. My heritage, my bloodlines are from the nations I was born from. But I don't fly the flag for Denmark above my house because I've got some bloodlines from Denmark, the old Viking days. So the point being is, recognize you're entitled to your identity. You can shape your identity. You can research your history. You can research who you are, where you came from. If it helps, do one of those ancestry DNA things, and it'll give you some lineage through your family's history. But the whole concept of this is be you. Be who you want to be, not what people are telling you to be. I have changed myself over the years because I was very into business orientated, making money, doing everything to make others happy. And then I had a moment where I realized I wasn't happy. And then I changed everything. I went to Asia. I went and did stuff that people would have seen as crazy or something back then. And then I've got people messaging me now that I knew 25 years ago saying they envied what I did. Because the reality is, for me, I was always somebody who travelled, but I gave it up for the bills, the family life, etc., etc. But then when that failed, um, I went back to my core, and now I'm back at my core. It's very unshakable once you get to that point because you know who you are. You're you're locked into your being. You're locked into your person. You're locked into your values, and it's important. But it's also important to encourage others to do the same. Now, a lot of people will talk about, well, let's finish off with the clarity. This is all about clarity and understanding. It's the bits they're telling you now is all been done through the Blair years and slightly before. This, I'll probably say about 1968, they started changing. Tell me if I'm wrong. But a lot of this stuff has been manipulated, it's on purpose, it's been done over time. It is not by accident. And the way you have to look at this, look across Europe, look at what happened to the US, it's been to sabotage Western societies. It sounds a bit bizarre, but this is what I'm saying. The clarity is look at the facts. Don't have to get the facts from me. Go and do your own research. If I'm wrong, I'll be very, very surprised because all this stuff is in everybody's face. But I also understand that a lot of people that have strange viewpoints is because of the education system they went through. So for me, it's not that I'm angry with anybody or hate them. I look at things through an empathetic lens. That a lot of the stuff they're doing, experiencing, whatever, or think is misguided. It's the same as there's been a couple of things picked up relating to some of the media hosts on about the diversity stuff in the UK, and they're quite aggressive on. I don't see these problems. I don't think, as if it's all false. And the reason they don't see it is because they live in rich parts of the UK. It hasn't reached their doorstep yet. They're not living on a council estate. They're not living in an area that has just changed demographically and had a lot more violence and horrible crimes and drug rates going up, and the high streets changed to fast food and barbershops. They're not in those communities. They wouldn't go anywhere near those scum. But the delusion is because they're in a bubble. They don't have a grip on reality. They've no interest in changing it because if they had to change it, they'd have to view it and have to accept that everything that they've done, been taught, etc., is completely wrong. Be sovereign. This is one of the things people talk about Brexit, and that was always my argument. It's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean sovereignty? You get nothing back with Brexit, and we've seen it. And it's not me being, yeah, I was right, all happy. I know our face might irritate people, but the reality is, that's what those sort of people will be. It hasn't given me an upside. My expectation was the problems we faced in Europe is the same problems we have in our parliament. And this continued and got worse. So you need to be sovereign to yourself. You need to be emotionally understand yourself and understand the manipulation and stuff when they're trying to make you touchy-feely or whatever. Realise you've got to get resilience in there. Understand how the manipulation's going because that will help you frame your mental health and what works for you and what doesn't. Your spirituality. See, I'm not religious, but I do have a keen interest in things like folklore and stuff like that. So my interests are on things like Greeks, the Romans, the Viking, the old stuff, rather than what was branded with a big chapel or whatever. Mine's more the old school stuff. And it's not because I suddenly need to be in touch with God or something like that. The reality is, it's the interest in the actual information, not the actual, do I believe in an all-seeing, all-knowing entity, where my first thoughts are Lord of the Rings and Cyrus. My views are very simple. I'll let you know when I get there. I don't think about it. I really don't. My interest is on the stuff that comes out of the fables, the information, the complex stories. You know, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Ulysses or you're talking about Thor or you're talking about it's the stories themselves. So my viewpoints are a bit not confused on it. I think that the fact is, from a spiritual point of view, it's just reading. That's it. What makes you happy as well, because I'll step out of going down a religious route as well, is what makes you happy that's important. I mean, this week I got my son a new vinyl player. It's a hi-fi system, but if I say hi-fi system these days, it's like a little box like this, and it's like a Bluetooth. This has got a vinyl. It's got a vinyl deck, CD player, cassette player. Because music for me is something they should be able to touch and hold, and this is why. Well, yesterday I bought some Red Hot Chili Peppers t-shirts, but music's important. That's part of what I class as my spirituality. It's the connection to being out of the frame of day to day. It's a connection of moving from work to peace and quiet. It's the same as I can find in photography and looking back on photos that I took and remembering those moments. So I hope that gives you some ideas on connecting the dots, because like I said, a lot of the stuff they talk about is high level rather than trying to explain what anything actually means, because I don't think a lot of them understand. Because the simplicity on this well-being stuff for me that they keep pushing is maybe stop being a twat as a boss. Maybe stop creating a bad work culture. Maybe stop lying to people's faces. Maybe not replacing people because of their skin colour or because they're a male. Maybe that would work. Shocking. Simple things. Maybe just hire the best person for the job. I'm going to finish this one off now with being a man today isn't about aggression or dominance. It's about not letting the system rewrite your wiring. And that's 100% on the money. If people are saying it's toxic masculinity, cut the toxic off and look at it and say, is it masculinity? Because they're probably telling you something you should be doing that you're not doing, because if it's bothering them, it's probably the right thing. In the sense of, yeah, don't do that. And you look at it, oh, yeah, all right, that looks good. I'll do that. This is a final call to action. If you ever felt like something's off, you're not alone. Let's talk about it. Let's keep it real. And most of all, let's not apologize for wanting to be whole again. You're right. I'm right. These people have no right to try and change you. None. None. Because even the ideology that they're trying to do is extremely flawed. As I said, there is a ridiculous amount of skilled roles out there because the focus is getting everybody into being a Gilbert, a manager, a leader, without any of the actual real skills. Because they don't fund the other courses. They're funding ones that have got DEI initiatives. So there's no engineers, no carpenters, no plumbers, no carpenters, plumbers, electricians, controls engineers. I'm missing a few. Apologies for that. But the reality is, the roles are there. Let's take them. Let's take them. There's more money to be made on them, by the way, than being a Gilbert, because you can control it. Because they're lacking a lot of the skills within the business. This gets back to the umbrella. That's why it makes sense. You know, they're all sat here. They're getting robbed blind on labour costs because a lot of these contracts are relying on internal staff that they can't recruit because they create toxic work environments. So instead of getting something done, John fixing something for £34 because that's his hourly rate as the business cost, they go and pay £400 to get you to come in and do it because they haven't got somebody capable of doing it anymore. And then they're sitting there wondering why the accounts don't balance. The opportunities are there. We don't need to gripe, we just need to shapeshift. Love to know your feelings, your thoughts. I know it's a long video, but it's quite an important one to discuss today. Thanks for watching.